What's good, everyone? It is the Brown Steve Jobs mixed with Steve Austin, a.k.a. Look Upon My Works Almighty and Despair. I'm Ozzy Mendes. I'm running through this mad quick because I don't want to keep this guy waiting. But I'm here joined by my guy, Gustosa from the Lost Borough.
Can't keep Icicle waiting. You're crazy.
Clown Prince is here. Zoom is here. Magneto is here. Welcome back, Real World of Flash, my guy. Drop a bomb for you, my guy.
Hey.
And
oh shit, we're live.
Yeah.
Episode 73.
Episode 73.
Neil Jackson, aka Icicle from Stargirl. Let's get it.
He's coming in right now.
I need to dip this real quick.
Oh, he got the cookie and coffee. Is it cookie and coffee?
Don't tell me you eating cookies and coffee, dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
That sounds
Never seen
amazing.
that.
Hello.
Hey Neil, how's it going, man?
What's going on, Neil?
How are you?
What's up?
You guys weren't here, so I went and got a carrot.
No worries.
They're fine. They're fine.
He's eating a cookie.
Yeah, he's eating a cookie with coffee.
Oh, there you go. You're the smarter one. So I'm one of those people, if I have cookies in the house, they're gone within the first 5 minutes. I can't buy anything that I want to binge because I just eat it.
Yeah.
What
They're crazy addictive.
I have no impulse control when it comes to
I'm the same way.
the only impulse control for me is to not buy it. So if I'm suddenly feeling really snacky, I have to get a fucking carrot. That's the
Well,
only thing.
I know. The funny thing is, I tell my mom, I'm like, don't buy cookies, right? And then when I open the drawer, I'm like, where's the fucking cookies? And she's like, you told me not to buy them. I was like, oh, well, that works. All right.
Let me tell you right now, Neil, you would not last a second in Costco.
Right? And what are you doing talking to your mum like that, dude? Come on.
Yeah.
No,
I tell them all the time. I tell them all the
my
time.
bad.
I'm grateful.
Ungrateful out here, man.
I really am. I'm sorry.
Jesus,
Mum, where
Mom.
the fuck are my cookies? You told me not to buy them. Don't listen to me.
Don't listen to me.
It works for me. That's the only
For anyone
God.
tuning in, they think that they're just advanced like an hour into the podcast and we just started. And we are live.
What's going on, everybody?
Yeah.
It is now episode 73. Whew, unbelievable. That's a lot of episodes for a podcast. And it's really not, actually. It's really not.
Joe Rogan's like at 2,000.
I know. Like,
How long have you guys been doing this? Is it
73 episodes.
You could do 1 minute episodes and 90 of them a day. So
Oh,
no,
that's a good question.
right.
That's a
Quality
been-
over quantity.
Hold on.
True.
We'll tell you right now. And as I'm telling you, for anyone listening, if you don't recognize that voice, because you won't, from Stargirl, because I didn't know he was English to begin with. Ladies and gentlemen, Neil Jackson. Neil, thank you for coming on. Welcome.
Yeah.
And
that's a huge compliment, man. Thank you. I mean, it's my goal. I came over to the States 16 years ago from England, and I thought I'd done American accent in a couple of things, but mainly on stage. And every Brit likes to think that they have a good American accent. And then when I came over here, I was like,
that's the same with
Yeah,
Americans.
yeah, we like to think we have great British accents.
Yeah, we're like, oh.
hello, American.
He's from across the pond, mate.
I came over thinking I had a good American accent, and then I started listening, and I realized my American accent was dog shit. And I then had to build it from the ground upwards again, and it was working with 3 different dialect coaches, and it was always my goal that if somebody is suddenly surprised, then I'm like, all right, sweet, then it's worked.
Yeah, no, I think I was surprised too.
I was like, what the
Job well done.
Neil, to answer your question, August 20th, 2019 was our first episode.
Okay.
So almost a year of podcasting. Yeah.
Oh,
damn.
2018. It was 2018 August.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah.
Never
Get
mind.
that mixed up. That's a whole year.
Yeah, that's the whole difference. Your first birthday's
2018.
big. No one cares about your second birthday.
Right.
Exactly.
That's good.
I mess up dates. I yell at my mom. It's all going wrong.
I'm going to send you some cookies, but you don't get any now.
Right. But Neil, man. So yeah, like I was saying, I was just like, I didn't know. And so did you started your career what, about 20 years ago? And so did you have to get like a training coach? Did you have to like take lessons to like improve on the accent? Or how did that come about? Was it just...
It was exactly that. I came to America. So I did the first 4 years of my career in Britain. And then I had a film. It was a Oliver Stone film called Alexander that came over and had a premiere here. So I flew over for the premiere and got a manager, got an agent. And that was it. Ended up staying and loving it. And the moment I got here, the stakes suddenly jumped up because not only had I left my home, I left my family, I left all my friends and everything to move to the States, and I knew nobody apart from the manager at that time.
Right.
But also, it's like a level up. Like arriving in Hollywood is like a level up. At least that the way it was then to London. In like 16 years ago, Britain makes TV shows. Obviously, we know Britain makes TV shows, but 16 years ago, Britain made TV shows for its little island. And then if anybody else likes it, that's a bonus. But we only made shows for our little island.
Inclusively.
Yeah, it was. And it was that thing of, if people in Britain like it, great. But if it makes it to Australia or somebody in France likes it, that wasn't the overall goal. Whereas now everybody makes TV and films for internationally.
Yeah.
So we got all these amazing British TV shows on Netflix or on network TV or on Amazon. And so,
have you ever watched The Night Manager with Tom Hiddleston?
I actually went to the premiere screening of that when they did a little Q&A. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So that was the first episode.
He's like, no, I didn't watch it, dude. I was there.
I was there.
Small little flex.
He's like,
Yeah. So I went. It was good. It was great. It was a good series. But yeah, I came over to America and it was suddenly a level up. Suddenly the pressure was higher, the money was higher, the competition was higher, and I know I wasn't there to make friends or to try to start life. I was there purely for my career. So I realized that if I wanted to be there, then I had to kind of dedicate myself 100% to it. And I went to this dialect coach, and she was very honest. And she was like, "There's some holes in your dialect, and we need to work on a few things." And one of the main things she said is, any opportunity you get speaking an American accent, she was like, do it where it doesn't count. I'm not like walking around with my friends and my girlfriend kind of trying to do an American accent.
Like going to a Starbucks, right?
Yeah, going
like
to a
ordering
Starbucks,
a coffee,
getting gas, and I would do it, and it was amazing how talking to people in an American accent and watching their reaction, and you'd see this kind of twitch in their eye, going, "Where? I don't know."
Are you from like down south or?
Well-traveled American.
Yeah.
Making me realize all the different things that I needed to do to kind of hone it, and then that was 19. So I'm doing this 19 years ago. That was 16 years ago. I kind of started on that.
Yeah. So at first, was it kind of would you sometimes forget, like when you're doing a scene, not forget, but sometimes your accent will come out and they'll be like, all right, cut, Neil,
this is
accent.
a hard thing. It's a great question because I wish more people would do that. Like on Absentia, this series that I did for Amazon, we had this fantastic dialect coach who was with us on set every single day. And there was barely a take that went by that he wasn't coming over and just like doing one thing, moving one thing, just saying like, it crept in here, or the R wasn't rounded enough, or
that's wild.
It's really intricate stuff.
Which was great, and it's such a wonderful thing because also it's one thing to like work on the, like, because I come from a theatre background, so you kind of work on the scene, work on the lines, and hone it in before I go to set. So I can work on the dialect and get my dialect home from those scenes. But then if I'm working with somebody who wants to improvise, or a scene feels like it needs to be a little looser and improvise, some of the improvised words might slip slightly, especially in the early part of my career. So I came to realize that I got to constantly work on it. There was some, in the early days, there were some shows that I worked on where I just didn't drop the accent. I would just keep the American accent going between takes because I was so scared that if I I was talking American accent and everything was kind of honed in, I'm saying like, "All right, mate, yeah, lovely," and then I go
shit.
And they would merge a little bit, and thankfully now over the years I don't need to do that. But it's a constant thing. Like when I was in Atlanta, it was actually really interesting. When we were in Atlanta and we were shooting, I don't know what it was, episode 8 maybe. And I did this scene with Hunter Sansone, who is American, who plays my son in the show. And we were talking about this girl that he likes, which we find out is Stargirl. And my character was talking about how he was courting his wife, the mother, and the little joke in there that she had a suitor. And what did you do? Oh, I killed him. And then sort of scene.
Little joke.
Did he? And we would do the scene. And nobody else will be able to tell, but I could tell that the accent, it wasn't dialed in for some reason. The music wasn't hitting my ear. And I found a dialect coach after I finished that scene, worked with them for 2 sessions and just dialed it back in again. And I kind of feel like it's like a musician, you know, if you play guitar but you haven't played for a while and then you pick the guitar up, you're not going to be as dexterous.
Right. A little rusty.
I'm curious, how do you like dial back in? Like, what is the practice that you do with the dialect coach? Like, what exactly?
A bunch of different things. Like, different dialect coaches will work different ways. Like the tongue twisters, like working on tongue twisters. You know, like
Sally sells seashells.
Yeah, Sally
Sure.
sells, or did Bibby Bobby bought a bat, Bibby Bobby bought a ball. You know, it's like going through like these kind of things, and then having conversations and hearing I pick stuff up, and then based upon what we've talked about. Sometimes, like that woman, it was literally talking to her, but talking to somebody whose specific job is to listen to my accent and pull me up when something flattened or didn't round or didn't sound the right way. Because this is a whole geek podcast now on dialect, right? But
we're branching out. That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, there will be no talk of Stargirl today. It's strictly dialect class 101.
My dialect prep. But like she explained to me that British people use the front and the back of their mouth with their tongue. So we are constantly, our tongue is constantly touching our teeth and then going back. So we just sort of do this tongue gymnastics, which is why you get kind of these plosives. Everything sounds really crisp because of the way that we pronounce stuff, and our tongue is constantly doing this.
It's so
Americans, they relax their tongue and everything sits in the middle of the mouth and it doesn't go all the way forward.
This is still Neil Jackson talking for everyone listening.
So it's a lesson in me to do less, because naturally I'm used to doing this back and forth with my tongue. That sounds terrible, but go with it. Your mum's not listening, is she, Judy? Relax,
and she still didn't get the cookies. I'm still upset.
Damn it. So it was once I kind of understood the mechanics of it, the biomechanics of it, then it's a reminder to me that I'm doing too much or I'm pushing it too hard. So anyway, lovely chatting to you guys.
We will resume class next week, 8:15 sharp. But no, man, that's incredible. I mean, there's only one American actor that I know that could pull off a British accent, and that was Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones.
Right? Yeah, he did great. And there's even no disrespect to him, there's even bits in that where he's talking in a way that British don't speak. Like there's little things that there's the thing. Like,
well, right, it's Game of Thrones, Westeros. Like it's just like
nobody in Britain says little. We don't say I was a little bit scared.
Yeah.
We say I was
a wee bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I was a wee bit scared. You know that's
no. That's
so right. That's so stereotypical. I'm so sorry.
I don't think that was Shrek.
Come on, bro.
Like, we'll say I was a little bit. We pull back on the T's, but I was a little bit scared. And so, even like there's a lot of British that will put R's in places that it shouldn't be in when we do it American. Right? Like I slept on the sofa bed, and you're like, there's no R in sofa bed. But we throw an R in because our brain thinks R is American. And the same with American to British, they suddenly make everything incredibly clipped and mummy.
Right? Yeah, that's exactly what goes to mind.
That's crazy.
So, Neil, for your next role, you will be doing a 1940s Brooklyn gangster. Would you be able to do it? How's the Brooklyn accent?
I'd love to try those challenges. Like, I've never done Southern on screen. So it'd be fun to do.
I hear that's an easy transition for some English actors. Like Andrew Lincoln for Walking Dead. That was pretty simple for him to do.
Yeah. I think anytime you can kind of hang your hat on a stereotype, it's a lot easier. Right?
Of course.
Like New Yorkie kind of thing, and jumping in with New Yorkie is easy.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm walking here.
I'm walking here.
Bada boom. So it's easier
bada boom.
jump on a stereotype, right? Than to try to do a neutral American accent. Like, it'd be fun. Like, I would hate to have to do like that Fargo accent, like one of those.
Oh, way up north from like North Dakota or Michigan or something.
Kind of those areas.
Yeah.
To do.
Or like, I don't know if you watch Ozark, like their accents, like I don't know shit about fuck Marty.
Oh yeah,
it's like
how amazing is that actress? She's phenomenal.
Oh,
she's phenomenal.
Yeah,
amazing.
You could be scared of somebody who's 105 pounds.
So true. That is so true. But Neil, tell us, man, like how I'm gonna give you kind of a debrief on how we approach Stargirl, because at first,
before you do that,
yeah, go right ahead. Make sure there's nothing stuck in your teeth though. We gotta always double check. I remember Mark and we actually saw like the first trailer that dropped. We saw it, right, and we were like, oof. We're like,
I don't know. I was kind of like on the fence.
We're like, ooh, like that.
Yeah.
That does not look intriguing. We won't lie, it didn't look intriguing at all. But our guy here, Eunice, right? Oh, just so you know, Eunice is the biggest Flash fan page on Instagram.
Okay.
So this guy is a CW correspondent and DC Universe correspondent.
Unofficial.
But nonetheless, every week he'll be posting about it. He'll be like, this show is getting better. This show is getting good. And then, so I was kind of getting FOMO. I hate to miss out on good shows. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll dive in an episode. So I watched the first one. I was like, okay. I was like, nothing too crazy, but I'm like, okay. Second, third episode, hooked. I started it when it was already 7 episodes in. I was like, yeah, I have to watch the whole thing tonight. And I caught up and I was just like, wow. And I was telling Mark, Brian, and Ariel, I was like, y'all have to watch this.
Yeah.
I'm like, because from the trailers and how it's portrayed, it seems like it's a kiddish kind of like, you know, but it still has that teenage high school drama, but mixed in with a lot of like, what the F moments. Like, I was not expecting that.
It's such a weird thing for me. Like the creatives in the sales department, and I've never been involved in it. So, you know, I've obviously never written a TV show or showrun a TV show, but the creative department and the market heads seem to be 2 different departments that don't communicate often. So the person who's cutting the trailer and is selling the show isn't the person that's been on the set reading the scripts and part of, you know, forming the narrative. And it's amazing to me that there's not more communication.
Yeah.
One of the big things across the board that we were talking about, the guy, they're not here, by the way. They're not sitting on the desk, but us.
He's like us.
These guys, my imaginary friends. But the guys that were in the show were talking about, and a lot of the fans were talking about, and message boards leading up to the release, the trailers didn't look good. The trailers looked like this popcorn, saccharine, kind of silly, fun, silly show.
Yeah.
It looked like it could have easily been on the Nickelodeon with the way that they were shooting it. You know? And I knew the show wasn't that. And one of the big discussions I had with Jeff Johns, who created the show and was the showrunner, of course, my character Icicle has nothing to do with the kids. He's not in the high school.
Clearly.
We know.
Clearly doesn't like children that aren't his.
Which is fair, and I think most parents are like that. But it was a lot of the stuff we were doing. Like I'd read the scripts, and there was a thing that was in episode 6 or whatever it was, where you see Icicle in a hotel room. And he's, or episode 7, I can't remember the episodes, but in a hotel room, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. And there's a guy that comes into the hotel room and you find out that this guy was indirectly involved in the death of his wife. And he kind of tortures him, grills him verbally, and then ends up blowing, he doesn't blow him. He ends up
whoa.
his breath.
It's the 1940 Brooklyn gangster coming out of him. He's like,
blowing him away. Now he ends up killing him by freezing. And I'm like, this is super dark.
Yeah.
And in the same episode, there's this high school angst kind of drama, and does he love me? Does he not?
Right.
Kind of stuff.
Right.
I kept saying to Jeff, I don't know how you're going to marry these together, because I knew that we were playing the scenes where he's Jordan, a lot lighter, to try to give the sort of Clark Kent effect of throwing people off the scent of the fact that he's actually Icicle. But I was like, I don't know how you're going to marry the especially the Icicle scenes and Brainwave. Some of the stuff that Brainwave does is crazy dark with the lighter tone. And then Jeff, around midway through the shoot, he had a full edit of episode 2. I wasn't able to see episode 1. And he said, let me show you this. He took me into his office and showed me on the laptop. And I was halfway in. I was like, I get it. I see what you've done. I mean, just the way that they put it
meshes perfectly, perfectly. And
it is so dark right here. Is there any lights or no?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to the light?
He needs,
know,
he needs the staff of the Cosmos. That's what it is.
Mom, I want some cookies and I want you to pay the electricity bill.
Oh my god! I knew this was gonna happen.
Come on, Mom.
Come
on.
on.
All right. At the break, I'll turn on my lights, guys.
All right. Sorry.
But no, what I was gonna say, right? It just meshes incredibly well. I didn't expect it at all. And I remember I was talking to Eunice. I think it was episode 3, right? Where it was titled Icicle.
Yeah.
And where, spoiler alert again, where you kill Joey, the kid. And I was telling Eunice right before, I was like, you know what? Like, I kind of like Icicle. I like his vibe. I like his style, you know.
That's when I told you the same thing.
Yeah.
And then
Brian texted me the same thing. Yeah. So then I'm like, I didn't reply to Brian. I was just waiting until the moment came because he was going to text me again. And same thing with Eunice. Eunice replied. He's like, okay. And then
We'll see how long that lasts.
And then it happens. And I see the card like go up, right? I was like, nah, they didn't kill him. I'm like, somebody saved him. Somebody had to save him. And then they're like, he was such a nice kid. I was like, yo. I was like, I was looking around to my imaginary friends that I was watching alone. I was like, did y'all see that? Yeah. I'm like, nobody's watching what I'm watching right now. It was
Mom, you saw that?
Yo, Mom, did you see that?
You want to really start worrying, Junior, when they answer you back. That's you know, you've gone down to
Thank God they didn't answer you back.
They didn't answer me.
Cookies.
Yeah.
That's one of the genius things that Jeff did. Like he constantly pulls the rug out from you where in the show, and just when you feel like you're getting settled. I mean, episode 10 just aired, and that was one of the biggest kind of twists that we've had in the show.
I was upset. Man.
Even knowing it was coming, watching it, I'm like, oh, that is dark. Right?
Yeah.
And it's one of the brilliant things is that just when you think you know what the show is, then he kind of flips it. Because here's the thing, you've got, I mean, I've talked about it quite a lot, you've got incredibly powerful villains. Of which there's unrivaled is Brainwave. Like Brainwave is clearly the most powerful out of all of them. The stuff that he can do. Yeah. He doesn't need to be geographically close to you. He can just give you a brain aneurysm from across the street.
Yeah.
And so he's incredibly dangerous. And one of the brilliant things that Jeff did is he took him off the board as soon as possible. Like gave him a really big 2 episodes where you really got to see this guy, and then take him off the board and put him into a coma.
Yeah, because that would have been OP.
And especially when he found Stargirl's identity, I was like, how are they going to carry this out for 13 episodes? Right. And then genius, put him in a coma. I was like, yes.
He's too
good writing.
Yeah, you know, it was amazing. And now of course he's out of a coma, and he's worse than ever. I mean, he's the most dangerous baddie in the show.
So that's kind of where I want to touch base with you on that a little bit, because, you know, you did with your origin story, right? Obviously that origin story was created for us to it is really dark in here. Jesus. This origin story came about.
Literally.
What were we going to say? I already know. No, Neil.
It looks like Blair Witch.
Yeah, for real.
In the tent.
As soon as he turns the light on.
Just go turn the light on. It's okay.
I'm just going to go into hiding. I'll turn on a bit. I don't feel like getting up. The table's in the way.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, we'll stop mentioning it.
Thank you.
Yeah, he brought it up.
I did bring it up. But so all right.
The soundboard.
So you in episode, we got your backstory where the whole thing happened with your wife, and the reason the ISA is doing this is for a better future for America, right? Yeah. Project America. But you know, and then we get that same episode, you kill Joey. So it's like, okay, you want Project America for a better society for your kids. But I think, and I want to tie this into Brainwave, because Brainwave killed his own kid. So now I'm thinking, and obviously I don't know what's going to happen in these next 3 final episodes, but do you think Icicle has that same mentality, or is his more like, okay, like, you're my son, so I'm doing this for you to begin with. I'm not going to go to the extent that Brainwave did.
Personally, I don't think that he has that kind of dark drive. I don't think he has the same thing. He has his humanity still. He has his morals about what he wants to do, and everything is put under the umbrella of. It's kind of what Christine said to him when she was on the deathbed. She
Right.
said, make this society a better place for our child and destroy anyone who gets in the way. And he initially wants vengeance. I mean, side note, this is one of the things I really loved about it. Did you guys see Shazam?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I saw Shazam, and then I started reading these scripts, and then I started talking to Jeff, and I said Shazam to him. He was like, "Yeah, that's exactly it. You get it." The idea that the comic book lore, as amazing as it is, it goes back quite a way, and now looking at it with modern eyes, it can be a little ludicrous. The idea there's the Justice Society and the Injustice Society, and there's a character called Icicle who sounds more like a My Little Pony than a villain, and the names are kind of comedic, right?
Stripesy.
Right.
Yeah, Stripesy, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Courtney.
But I love the fact that Jeff leaned into that and he kind of mocks it, but he also reinvented it. And one of the reinventions that I thought he did brilliantly was the fact that you get this backstory for Jordan, for Icicle, and after the death of Christine, his wife, he makes it his personal mission that nobody else suffers the same injustice that happened to him and his wife. So he forms the Injustice Society to stop injustices from happening, like the one that happened to him and his wife and his kid.
Boom.
And so,
Heroes.
yeah, so that's the thing. Like when Jeff pitched me, when he called me and offered me the role and pitched me, I was like, it sounds like this dude's the hero.
Wow.
And in his own mind, he is, because
hero of your own story.
Absolutely.
right, kind of Thanos-like. He believes that he is the only one who has the strength of character to make the hard decisions that will ultimately make the world a better place for everybody who survives, but everybody. And so he is all about that, but at the same point, he's doing it through the prism of he wants to make it better for his son. And if you cross him, then like with Joey and like with the Wizard, he'll take you off the board. But he's not. He doesn't do it with joy. He's not looking forward to killing people. He's not looking forward to hurting people.
It's just, if you're in my way, you gotta go.
It's a necessary evil to take him to where he wants to go, and nothing can get in the way of that plan. And I love that perspective on it. That he's not rubbing his hands and waiting to off people.
Right.
Yeah, he's not a mustache twirling villain.
Yeah. That's so
there's a
true.
real sadness, and it was one of the things we talked about, like in episode 3, as you said, of the death of the Wizard. I wanted there to be a real sadness when he's died. You know, we've killed him, and it's not like that's him dead. It was just like that's a shame.
Yeah,
No,
that shouldn't have had to happen. Yeah.
I don't regret doing it. I did what I had to do, but I wish I hadn't come to this.
That was pretty brutal too. You kind of like played the victim, like no, and then
I loved how he killed Starman. I loved how he killed
Bye.
Starman.
That was nice, and kudos to Joe Knezovich who played the Wizard, because we were talking about nobody at that point had been frozen by icicles, so we had no sort of barometer on what it would look like. And we were talking about the various different, from the moment he touches the wand, is his core frozen? Why can he not fight back? Everything else. And he acted it brilliantly. The moment I touched the wand, it was like he was having this heart attack and seizure.
Yeah.
It's so all they did was just put some CG frosting on him to sell it, but he was the one that made that work.
No, definitely.
It looks painful.
It did.
Yeah.
It's extremely painful.
Have you ever got frostbite? Have you ever kind of like?
I got one the other day.
Frostbite. I almost had that when I went paintballing in January a couple of years ago.
It hurts, right?
Yeah. Your fingers start to turn like a certain color or whatever, and then anytime you clench your fist.
I can't wait until like you're in a cold area and like you're with family or friends. And they're like, oh, shouldn't you be used to this icicle? Ha. And then you're just like, all right, all right, man, like, come on.
All those jokes are starting out because I can't say cool now. Can't say chill.
I was chill.
Words I can't say anymore.
He's gonna start making all the references that Arnold Schwarzenegger did in
Cooler.
It's like I stay cool, yeah. But did you have to learn? Did you have to learn a little bit of Norwegian for like some of those lines, or do you know Norwegian?
No, I don't know Norwegian at all. Thankfully, the guy that plays Sufus, who's my dad in it, is native Norwegian speaker, and it's one of those things that are just kind of amusing looking back on, because stepping back from it, you'd imagine that there was a Norwegian speaker there to kind of give dialect coaching to make sure it sounded authentic and everything else like this. In the script, it was always in parenthesis in Norwegian and then written in English.
Oh,
That's confusing.
All the way up to the day before, I was like, is there a Norwegian translation? I need to kind of get this in my head. I need to start working on it. And then all I got was I got this translation sent in an email. And it was a Google Translate. They just typed it in Google Translate.
Oh.
And so we turned up on set the first time that I'm speaking Norwegian. And I didn't realize that Jim France was a Norwegian native speaker. And he came up to me and he said, did you get the Google Translate? I was like, yeah, I got it. He said, it's bullshit. It's not saying what
it is.
Grammatically all over the place. He said, so I've written out what it should be and I've written it phonetically for you. And he was amazing.
Wow, that's
nice. Kind of cue cards so I could, like Rain Man, sit and try to get the hood into my head. But it was a language that didn't stick. Like there was the prayer that we had that was in the big dining room scene. Where it was prayer before dinner. And that was the bane of my existence. Because that was another one I only got the morning of. And every time they called cut, I'd be going over to Jim and just going, all right, let's run it one more time. And trying to get it. And he was like, no, it's and he's like going on everything. Because like you said with the American accent, the last thing I wanted was for a Norwegian speaker to be like, all right, that was
He just said he wants to go to the library. What?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm either saying something wrong or I'm just saying it terribly so you can't understand my accent.
Right.
So I wanted it to sound authentic as possible. So we grilled those ones, but yeah, they weren't easy ones.
I mean, I couldn't tell you whether they're authentic or not because I don't know a single letter.
It's funny because people do find it offensive. Like I'm Brazilian, and Junior, remember the episode in Westworld where they had this guy say some things in Portuguese,
president,
and it was like
awful.
it was
awful. It was really bad.
It happens in Spanish too. There are times when you're watching either Law and Order or something. You're going, especially as a New Yorker. I'm like, going,
who are they trying to fool with this?
Yo, what are they doing?
Who are they trying to fool with this?
Get that gente hacen.
Is it that hard to find a Brazilian for that? It was only like a 1 minute scene.
It was
never
literally
showed up again?
it was a 1 minute scene.
Sometimes production isn't as
But isn't that funny? Not to go political, but I think that's the sort of thing now that people will be acutely aware of to make sure it's as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
I've been watching, like during COVID, I've been watching a whole load of sort of classic movies and older movies because it's fun to kind of relive them. And it's amazing to me going back and watching things like Rain Man and Usual Suspects I just watched. And I completely forgot in Usual Suspects that Pete Postlethwaite is doing brownface in it and he's impersonating Pakistani.
Yeah. It's problematic.
Yikes.
It's problematic.
And that was an Oscar-winning movie 25 years ago.
Yep.
And I never even thought about it then. And now watching it, I haven't seen it in like 18 years.
You're like cringing. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Pete Postlethwaite, who I love.
Wait till the kids on Twitter find out about Usual Suspects.
It's an amazing film, and it's those things that I think now we're hyper aware of that they would get a Brazilian actor or a native Portuguese-speaking actor to make sure that it was authentic, especially for the smaller moments that give authenticity to the whole show.
Exactly.
Right. You can just like go in the street and be like, hey, do you know Portuguese?
I'm a Norwegian speaker, so.
Yeah.
I mean, but right, you play. I mean, if you know the guy next to you is Norwegian, he's saying you're nailing it. That's all that matters. That's all that counts. Yeah. And but man, like so you are now part of the DC universe. You're now part of the DC fandom. That's big time, dude. Because it's right. It's awesome because us as geeks, as nerds, whatever you want to call us, we are very passionate about this. And so that's why, first of all, we wanted to have you on because we're like, wow, he's doing an amazing job. You know, when we see you're very like responsive and you go on a lot of these interviews and talk to a lot of these people. So like, it'd be great to just have a conversation with him. And then two, now though, like comic book fans, can be very toxic at times. So like, have you kind of got, not you personally, but have you kind of seen both sides of the spectrum where the fans can be very, very, well receiving to things, and on the other end where they're just like, oh, I hate this, like blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I'm very lucky, thankfully, that I haven't received it.
Right.
And there's been a couple of times some people have attacked me on Twitter, and I've only known about it weeks later because I don't go on Twitter as much these days. But then the fans have kind of rallied around like piranhas and put somebody in the right perspective. Let's say. It's like having your own virtual squad.
They check him. They check.
Well, like what were people like, saying or like doing?
Well, I mean, more kind of personal stuff because I'm quite open about talking about depression and things like that.
Oh, right.
People have said some personal stuff that's just short-sighted or insensitive or just mean. I mean, who knows? We're all powerful from here, right? We're all
right.
They wouldn't say shit to you your face though.
You just sit as an egg and you've got anonymity.
Yeah.
You can spout whatever you
Zero
want.
followers.
Zero followers,
And
12
so-
tweets.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
that's when I'm talking it. What's nice is receiving a lot of love from people for Icicle, because like you said, the fan base of DC and comic book lore and everything like that is massive. And obviously Icicle existed in the comics before, and there have also been a couple of iterations of Icicle
On the Flash, right, Eunice?
It was in Flash, and he was also in.
He's like,
what was the Smallville? I think.
Okay.
Later episode of Smallville.
Also, Icicle got some stats on the board.
Yeah, so I knew that there were versions of him before, and it was one thing me and Jeff talked about of like, do we honor the comic books? Do we try to create our own version? To what point do we have our ankles weighed down by what's been created before and trying to give something that ticks all the boxes for people? But also the other side of it is he's not a massive villain. He's not one of these super well-known villains that has existed. It's not like you're doing the Joker or the Riddler or some of these amazing, like, well-known characters. Jeff created this entire new iteration. And one of the things we talked about was Icicle's costume. Like I put on my Instagram page, some of the early ideas for Icicle's costume are really leaning into the Frost Icicle idea. Like in the comic books, he kind of veers from like this impish Jack Frost character that's kind of ridiculous through to a militant character who wears fatigues. And they wanted to doff their cap to that with the costume. And one of the ideas for the costume at one point was a form-fitting snakeskin silver tracksuit.
Oh, wow.
And it was just an idea that was thrown out there. But I remember saying to him, I was like, all right, what is the purpose of Icicle? Why does Jordan use Icicle? What is the value of him in his arsenal? Because Jordan is independently wealthy and a fantastic businessman. So he attacks his problems from a business perspective. But if he can't achieve them through business acumen and diplomacy, then he suits up, becomes Icicle, and he deals with it in the way that he wants to deal with it. And so in that case, I was saying he's a soldier. He's essentially, Icicle is Jordan's soldier. And whenever Jordan needs this militant arm to come up, he ices up and he does what he needs to do. I said, so instead of, why would somebody go from bespoke Armani suits and then suddenly I'm going to become Icicle and put on a silver leopard skin, it's a silver snakeskin onesie.
Right.
Like, no, it needs to be something that's functional, that feels like he's militant. And we batted back some ideas. So the combat boots and the combat pants made it in there. They loved the idea of a long trench coat, because I was like, capes, why would he wouldn't have a cape? That doesn't make sense. A long trench coat. They ended up putting him in an Angora sweater, which was interesting for somebody who doesn't feel the cold. He's an Angora sweater. And it was doubly interesting.
It should be a tank top, right? It should be a tank top.
Right? Like in Atlanta summers, there was that scene in episode 3 where he's on the bridge and like freezing the bridge, and it was 110 degrees with 100% humidity.
Oh my God!
I'm standing sweating, and thankfully he's CG at that point, so he justified that it's just slightly.
Yeah.
That is nuts, man.
We wanted to honor that with the comic books, because like the fans are everything to this. The only reason we've got a second season is because the fans got behind this and really supported it, and
that's awesome.
And gave it a chance. Yeah, which is just phenomenal, and gave it a chance. Like you said, the trailers, in my opinion and several other people's opinion, didn't do the show justice.
Right.
And thankfully, people gave it a go anyway, and people like Eunice and Brian kind of championed it for you guys, and told you to jump on board. So if it wasn't for the fans, then we wouldn't have a show. So there's a symbiosis there that at the same point, we want to be and have to be 100% respectful to the fans, because this is their medium first. This is your medium first, and we're jumping into our interpretation.
Right, and I think word of mouth has been the big thing for this show, because I go on comment sections of, like, let's say anybody, you know, that posts about it, and people are like, great, love the episode, blah blah blah, all only positive feedback, really. So, you know, I think that has been very helpful, and I think a lot more people are going to tune in to season 2, which I'm very excited about. I mean, I want to see how I know you know how the next 3 episodes are going to play out. But I definitely can't wait. But we're gonna take a quick.
Just comment on that for a second, because I think I personally think that intention is everything, right? And if you meet, if you meet an individual who is posturing or trying to become something, you're going to get a negative vibe from them, and you'll repel. And I think that's the same on a group setting. And this show was created by Jeff Johns 20-something years ago because he wanted to create an homage after the death of his sister. To have this sort of beautiful memorial for him in comic book form, which is his medium. So already it's coming from a beautiful and pure place. And then he created this show, and he's the showrunner of it. So all of that love, respect, and honor is going into the production. And I've done a ton. I don't know how many credits I have on IMDb, but I've done a ton of stuff. And I can say on one hand the number of times that everybody that's on the production is 100% behind making the best show they can possibly make, from the catering staff to the grips and the crew and everybody on set. Nobody was phoning it in, and that trickles down from the top. That's all Jeff Johns, who created this energy that we were making something that was respectful. And I think then if you pour all of that energy and love into it, it's going to be received with the same energy. We're not saying we're doing this, bitches, watch it. We're saying, and I hope you appreciate it, and I hope when people watch it, they get that sense from what's been created.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think Courtney's character, like, she's so innocent, right? Like, because you could see, like, she has no experience really, and she's just head on, like, to Pat. We have to bring the fight to them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you have no experience. They are gonna completely, like, just dismantle you. But, you know, and he said, right, her personality, just everything about her resonates from his sister. So, you know, right, like you just said, if people keep that in mind when they're watching it, you know, it has a lot deeper meaning, and the story does it justice as well, like the way it's written.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that, because there's sort of 2 things in there. One thing is, I love the way that Jeff has made everybody relatable. I mean, it's like the backstory that he's given to every single person gives you this full dimension. Like the backstory that they did on Cindy, on Shiv. On the one hand, she's the ultimate mean girl, but then when you find out,
she sucks.
Yeah, but when you find out about her dad and
I'm just like,
her father, and the fact that she accidentally killed her mother, and now she's got these stepmothers, you start to understand why she's a little bit like that. So there's empathy in there.
Yeah.
And the other side of that is, every single step of the way, we wanted to make it seem like the choices that every character was making and the actions that they were in were real. Like, one example of that is when Icicle first meets Stargirl in episode 3, where he's frozen Stripe and she's run off by herself to try to find him to take him down. In the original script, you see Icicle walk up and Stargirl turn around and fire a blast at him, and he moves out of the way. And then he looks at her and he says, "It's nice to finally meet you, Stargirl." And then she tries to fire again, and he freezes the staff, and then he fires a thing at her, and thankfully the staff blocks it. And we were talking on set, and I said, Jeff, if she's a fly in the ointment, which she is at that moment, why wouldn't he just take her off the board? He's got this chance to just kill her. And why would he toy with her? And we talked about it. It was like, yeah, that makes sense, because that's a sort of TV device, this idea that they're going to have this standoff and it's all really cool. But no, he's just like, look, she's dead, and now I can move on with my plan. It's the way that Icicle would think. And so we ended up changing on the fly that he fires an icicle at her, and it's thankfully the cosmic staff that blocks it, saves her life, and then she turns, and then they have their interaction, and then he ends up getting hit by a flying fist, which was a very weird one to shoot. But making sure that every choice is plausible. You know, like we've all watched the horror movies where they're like, "Oh my god, it's so scary," but I'm still going to run into the dark place and not turn the lights on.
Exactly.
All
like Junior did.
Speaking of turning the lights on,
I want to bring it back. Making those choices seem authentic, so everyone's not going, "God, why didn't they just?"
Yeah.
Like it's too cliche, right? If you know they face to face, like why doesn't he just kill her? No, you're absolutely right, and I think that's why the storytelling to me has been the main thing that's attracted me to this, because I'm like, there's no real plot holes here, or granted, it's a superhero show with cosmic staff and a dude who shoots ice, but it's if it's still in the real world in a sense, because Icicle, like you just said, wouldn't toy with her. Like he's like, no, like you're in my way, you're gonna die. That's it. Case closed. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad also that you're able to sit down with Jeff and tell him these things like, hey, what do you think? Do you think this will work better? And the fact that he's just like,
Well, yeah, it's one of the great things with Jeff. I mean, I've known Jeff for 15 odd years because we did Blade the series together. This show that we did, which was the TV reworking of the Marvel character, and so we've been friends and known each other for a while. So there's that we already have a friendship that we can kind of crack past that. But on the same level, I guess, just doing this 19 years. As long as it comes back to intention, right? As long as your intention, there are some times that you see actors who are trying to shape a scene because of what they think their character needs. And as long as the choice is about what the scene and the story needs and moving it forward, it's not from a place of ego, then at least you're approaching the problem from a broader perspective. And Jeff is great with that. He was very quick to say yes. He was very quick to say no. He would listen to every single discussionary point and be like, actually, that really works. That's interesting. Let's work that in. So he was a real collaborator in that regard, which is great considering it's his baby, right? He created this and it's his baby. And it'd be very easy to rule that with a very tight, closed fist. But he's a great collaborator. And he was always, whoever it was, from the cameraman to the sound ops, if people had a good suggestion, he was like, oh, actually that works. Let's faction that into it. Because it's all coming from the place of how do we make this show the best it can possibly be? Not egoically, I want to make it my show. It's about how do we
Imagine you're like, hey Jeff, nope, don't even want to hear it. Don't even want to hear it. He's I've
worked with directors like that. I've worked with directors that you come in and some things might not make sense. Because I've worked with, and 9 times out of 10, they'll listen because it's such a different, because I write as well. It's such a different thing. When you sit down and you write something, I am looking at the broad picture of what the story is. But when I come on as an actor, I have one perspective and one perspective only, and that's the role that I'm playing. And suddenly my understanding of my perspective on that character and the way they interact is going to be broader than the way that the writers may have thought about them. And I've done shows where you get the script and it's a rhyming couplet. It's like, hey, tonight we're going to go to the park, we'll get there and we'll have a great lark. And you're like, it's just bad writing. They hadn't said it out loud. So the character's doing this sort of like Shakespeare rhyming couplet thing. And so it's the job of the actor to take the blueprint that's been given of the script and bring it to life. And I believe that's the job of everybody on the show, to bring this blueprint to life. But bringing it to life might sometimes mean that it needs to be a little bit malleable, because it takes on a new life once you start shooting it.
It could become a completely different thing, I'm sure. Yeah,
a completely different thing, and things that you might not have even realized in the writing process suddenly become very obvious when you're doing it. Like I did a film called Push years ago, and the fight choreographer put together this amazing fight sequence between me and Chris Evans in it. And
Push.
Yeah, we came to do it, and I couldn't do the fight sequence, and we stopped for a second and realized I'm 6'1" and the fight choreographer was 5'4", and he's doing moves based upon his height.
Yeah.
Squats and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, dude, I can't squat that low. I can't get down what you're getting to do it. So we had to kind of change it. So everything is always changing on the fly. And good collaborators kind of recognize that the thing has to take a life in the moment that it's in, as opposed to being married to an idea and forcing it through.
Got you. Neil, we're going to take a quick break just so I could turn the lights on.
Okay.
And then we're going to come back and talk more about fight choreography because I know that you box.
Right.
So I want to see Icicle boxing Stargirl. That's exactly what I want for. If I don't see that in the season finale, watch the reviews I'm gonna give it. Watch. Oh, fucking cookies!
All right.
Episode. You just need to make it. Where's my fucking cookies?
Where's my fucking? That's exactly what it is.
That's the name. That's the name.
Where's my
All
fucking
right.
cookies?
We are live. We are back. Thank you guys for listening. Shout out to our sponsor, Anchor, and shout out to Neil Jackson, who is still thankfully with us.
Guys, we completely forgot our main thing that we do here. Neil, every guest that comes on needs a villain name. Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm just gonna take a guess at the villain you're gonna choose.
The albino. Yeah, I'll go with Icicle.
A typo.
Logical.
Go with typo.
But what if he was definitely like, no, I don't want to be Icicle. Like, play him on a whole series. Like, no, I want to change it up. Like, I want to be.
I went full method.
Yeah, no, I'm curious. Like, before you played Icicle, who was like your favorite in terms of comic books? If you even like watched or read them, who was like your favorite villain or character just in general?
It's a good question. Like in Britain, I don't know how many British people you've spoken to, but comic books weren't a massive thing when I was growing up. Definitely not in the 80s and 90s. So my sort of first induction into comic book world was Richard Donner's Superman, obviously, and then Michael Keaton Batman, and then the X-Men cartoons. I love
remember that? 90s? Yeah.
So my favorite character growing up, there was two of them. My favorite character were Gambit, and I loved Daredevil. I thought they were amazing characters.
So you watched the Netflix series, right?
Yeah, which I thought was great, and Charlie Cox did a good job with it.
Oh, so that's why you posted that day on your story, right? I guess someone had put it.
Yeah,
U.S. Daredevil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's nice. From there,
but we see you more as a reverse Flash kind of.
Yeah, a few people have said that about reverse Flash. I'm not as in. Yeah, big smile came on your face there, Eunice.
He's like,
that's him. I think the Flash series is amazing, and I watched the first season and absolutely loved it. And then it was one of those that I ended up going shooting and just didn't kind of carry on with it. And now I don't know how many have been, like 6 seasons, 7 seasons of it. So I'm not all up on the folklore of Flash, but Reverse Flash is. I'm really interested. You know, I was really interested in the Robert Zemeckis Flash. That was the one that I wanted to see. There was a period of time where Robert Zemeckis was going to.
Yeah, where he was the one who was going to helm it. Yep.
How many?
He's gone through like 6 directors. I don't know.
That movie has been through development hell, but right now it's currently going to be directed.
It's looking good. It's looking good for DC.
Looking good now.
I know.
But then now, like for me now, I'm interested. I'm just really interested in the ones that are sort of deeply conflicted backstories. It's like Batman's obviously an amazing one, and I'm really interested to see what Robert Pattinson does with that. But the ones that are sort of anti-heroes, I've always been interested in anti-heroes.
Yeah.
So I like Gambit as a kind of anti-hero.
Yeah. Gambit's
an anti-hero. They have sort of Daredevil doesn't have an ambiguous moral code, but they're right on the cusp of bad. But they
one bad day away, right? That's all it takes for them to cross the line.
Right, exactly. Wolverine and those kind of characters, you can see them moving into the villainous side very easily. The ones that I love the sort of iconicness of Superman. There's not a more boring character in the world to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's such a goody goody. He's just such a Boy Scout. He's just like there's
what I'm talking about.
Brian's heartbroken. He's like,
sorry.
Wait, hold on. Did you watch Man of Steel?
Yeah.
Did you like Man of Steel?
No.
Neil, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
No, but you know what he was? I think that he's a great Superman. I love David Goyer. I've worked with him. I think he's fantastic. I wish they'd just told a linear story. Like, it's been so long since we had the Richard Donner Superman. Just tell us a new origin, like, story for him. They bounced back and forth with these flashbacks that got so convoluted that they're always being too clever for their own good. And I think Zack Snyder creates beautiful pictures. I'm not as up, and if he wants to employ me, apologies, but I don't.
Zach is like, off the list.
Neil Jackson,
a character, like really telling character stories, and the things that make those superhero films and TV shows work is the character behind the power. The Richard Donner Superman. You fall in love with Clark Kent, and you want to get to know this character and the complexity of him and these sort of dual identities. And for me, it just didn't do that for me.
Got it.
Neil, do you think that because another discussion that we have all the time is that sometimes nostalgia probably clouds our judgment for anything new coming out. So could it be that you're so spoiled with the Richard Donner stuff that maybe any iteration that comes out that doesn't match that standard that's already been met for you, it's a bit of a letdown?
No, because it's a good question, and it's a good perspective to have. I'm a fan first and foremost. I mean, I'm first in line to turn up to stuff. I love opening weekend, the big films and the TV shows. I love watching stuff, and what I love more is because I've been in the industry now for almost 20 years. I love it when I'm so immersed that I can't see I can't see the way it's been made.
Right.
Okay.
Would it be on a script level, directing level, CG level, whatever it happens to be? I'm so engrossed in the story that I lose myself, and I'm suddenly not somebody who is dissecting it. And I love it when that happens, and I'm rooting for that to happen. Like Shazam was one of my favorite films of last year. I loved it because it was funny, it was dark, it was great script and characters and everything else like that, and it came out left field. I want to root for that stuff, but if it's a little bit off point, then I think I get disappointed sooner because I'm a fan and I'm rooting for it to be the best it can possibly be. And because I hold these, especially superhero stuff, which is the stuff that I loved watching when I was growing up, I hold it to such a high esteem. If it doesn't hit that, then I'm disappointed because my hope puts it on a pedestal.
Got you.
Got it.
All right,
Neil, we're on complete opposite spectrums, but it's okay. It's okay.
We respect
your opinion. Sort of.
I love it. Go against the grain.
No, it's
great.
It's great. It's great, but that's what makes things enjoyable sometimes. It's
it's all about personal taste and opinion. I mean, don't get me started with The Mandalorian. I'll make a lot of enemies with that one. But
the Mandalorian, why? What's your take on it?
You know what I think? I think if Star Wars never existed, and then we watched The Mandalorian, we'd all be like, I don't think it's that good.
Oh, Mark just became your
Listen, I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest fan right now because literally,
I
was not a big fan of Mandalorian. I was not a big fan of it.
The genius of Mandalorian is Baby Yoda. Once they put Baby Yoda in, I was like, I'm going to forgive a bunch of the ills because Baby Yoda is amazing and cute.
I have never watched a Star Wars movie in my life, and I tried to watch Mandalorian, and I couldn't.
Wow.
All right, cool. So
I mean, some people yell at their mom about cookies. Some people don't.
I think a lot of these series that are coming out have very niche demographics. So if you love Star Wars, you're gonna probably love Mandalorian. It's not very inclusive in a sense.
No. And I love the nostalgia of it. I loved watching it for the nostalgia and seeing my favorite episode was the Taika Waititi episode when there's an episode in it that he directed.
Oh,
let's go!
That's your least favorite one?
No, that's one of my favorite episodes.
He did a great job directing that episode. You could tell he gave it that Waititi touch to it.
That's when he smacked Baby Yoda, right?
Yeah, that's when the stormtroopers were fighting Baby Yoda.
They were just chatting. It was so great because it was this weird kind of meta moment.
Banter, yeah.
Right. And it was what's his name? Jason Sudeikis. He was one of the stormtroopers. He's phenomenal. Yeah. And No, but the reason I'm iffy about and now the ironic thing is he's directing like the next however many Star Wars films, Taika Waititi.
Oh, is it good?
Yeah. Those all got delayed, by the way. That and all the Avatar movies, just for everyone's information.
Yeah, of course.
Because pandemic. But nonetheless,
Avatar Pandemic.
What happened?
What are you saying?
Avatar Pandemic. That's the name of it now. Isn't it?
Avatar 2, Pandemic.
Yeah, James Cameron's like,
I see you on Zoom.
But no, so Thor Ragnarok, like I was laughing my ass off the entire time. I hated it.
He doesn't like to laugh during films. He doesn't like.
I don't hate it. That's right. I'm sorry. Hate is a strong word. I don't even dislike it. I just don't like the humor. That's all.
Right.
The movie itself was phenomenal. Like the cinematography, Thor being a beast the way he should be. The storyline, hella. But I was just, when I was laughing, like I was crying inside. I was like, it shouldn't be this way.
Well, do you think the humor detracts from it?
Yeah, a little bit. That's my thing.
It was like overused in like it was like used in weird
sentimental moments.
Yeah, like I don't know if I would use that there, but that's only personal preference. Like I didn't hate it. I thought it could have been a little better, but it was still a good movie.
Like that, the way he was in Infinity War was my favorite, like Thor. Like that's where he had that scene where he was very like sad, right? When he was talking about like how his whole family died and like his whole race died. Yeah. Like that's like the Thor that I like. So I'm there with you, Junior, on like the humor,
the comedic, yeah.
But it's a balance, right? It's finding a balance, and coming back to Stargirl. That's one of the things I like about this is that you've got super dark stuff, and then suddenly you'll get this little dose of humor with the kids, or
the opening episode, the pilot, where Starman dying. Like, hey, it's not you, man. By the way, he's dying. He's like, no, dude, not you. Yo, Joel McHale is too much, man.
Dude, he's like, dude, I'm serious. It's not you. Like, give it to somebody else. I'm dead serious on that. I'm like, geez.
Humor is great because it just breaks a moment. It can be overused. Obviously, it can be overused, but when it's done, it's
right, exactly.
But that's what makes it work for Thor Ragnarok.
What is it?
Well, we're bringing it back to Thor Ragnarok. We got
no, because he mentioned Taika Waititi.
Ariel's debating Neil. Ariel's debating Neil.
It's okay.
No, now we're talking MCU now. No, but Neil, have you watched all of sort of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies?
Yeah.
I love them. Awesome, dude. But I want to talk about a little bit about Absentia, because I don't know if any of you here have watched. I've seen it pop up.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers, obviously. But can you, like, I'm obviously going to start it now because, well, you are now in our podcast Mount Rushmore because you came on. You were so kind to come on. So I'm going to support your work because you're supporting ours. And I love that, mutuality. Is that a word? I'm just going to use it. Mutuality.
Mutual support.
It should be
mutual support. Mutuality. Yeah, I can't even say it anymore. But no, nonetheless, break it down for us. I want to hear more about it. I heard it has great reviews. You're one of the main cast members, so intrigue us.
It's one of those anomalies, right? It was this show that was picked up by Sony TV. They wanted to figure out a way how to make it both as inexpensive as possible, which is why we shot the whole thing in Bulgaria. It was a weird one. It was Sony TV, American producers, shot in Bulgaria with an Israeli crew and primarily English actors, all pretending they're in Boston.
Wow.
Wait, so you have a Boston accent in the show?
No, we decided not to go. They decided not to go with the Boston accent, but to neutralize everything to sort of standard American.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
And it's because that again, you don't want to start offending Bostonian by doing this.
Trust me, as a New Yorker, I could care less, dude.
All right, maybe we have some people listening from Boston. We're not gonna offend anybody. We're not gonna offend anybody.
I don't want Mark Wahlberg getting up at 3 a.m. to tell me off.
Right. He works out like at 4 a.m. like every day.
Who? Mark Wahlberg, right?
Mark Wahlberg.
It's insane.
Marky Mark.
Oh, yeah. That brings us back what we were going to talk about. Neil, you are the Neil Freeze.
Is he frozen? He is frozen. Yeah.
That's pretty ironic.
Not again.
He's ironic.
Oh,
He's frozen.
you were frozen.
You're going way too.
Let it go.
Oh man!
He said, "Let it go." All right,
but
what were we saying?
What was I saying? Oh,
Absentia.
Absentia.
Absentia is this super cool show which I really like, and the story is that there's a serial killer. This is all backstory. There's a serial killer been killing people.
I'm in.
This FBI agent, Emily, has been tracking him. She finally finds him, and he captures her, and they believe killed her, but they don't know. So he gets indicted. He gets put in prison for her death. And the show starts 6 years later. And 6 years later, everyone's tried to move on. I play her brother, who became an alcoholic as a result of his sister's death and never getting closure on it. And then the opening scenes in the pilot episode are her ex-husband, who is now remarried and is raising their children with his new their child with his new wife, gets a call saying Emily's alive, and if you want her, you have to be at this coordinates within 15 minutes, or she'll die, or something like that. And so they race there. They find her in a tank that's slowly filling with water, and he manages to just save her. And they get her out, but suddenly copycat killings start happening, like the way that this serial killer who's now in jail did them. And people suspect that she was the serial killer all along. So she has to go on the run to clear her name, but also find out who has kept her and tortured her for 6 years.
Wow.
That's the start point. It's this really...
Is this based on a book?
No, it was an original concept. And it's one of those that is like cliffhanger after cliffhanger after twist after cliffhanger. And just as you think you know what's going on.
So Stargirl. So Stargirl.
Right.
So Stargirl.
less ice.
Right.
Less ice.
It's
Let it go.
Let
it go.
And the third season just dropped last Friday.
Nice.
What's it showing on?
Absentia.
No. What's it showing on? Like, what's
Amazon Prime.
Oh, Amazon Prime. Oh, okay.
It's a Prime original, right?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Nice.
Prime originals almost never miss. They're always like very...
I just opened my Amazon app, and Absentia was literally like...
I told you, I see it all the time.
Our phones are spying on us.
Whoa.
That too.
I'm still adding it to my watch list, but thank you.
But Neil, there was I was watching a couple of interviews that you were on, and you told this really, really, really dope story that kind of uplifted me in a way, because you were talking about how you sort of, this is just paraphrasing the interview, but you were saying how you kind of fell off with acting, right? You kind of didn't know if this was working out for you, and it's when you got the call for Make It or Break It, and you kept declining it, right? You're like, I'm not taking this role, but the director's like, nah, dude, like, you're my guy for this.
It was. I've had a couple of their moments. Absentia was one moment, and Make It or Break It was another moment. I've been in LA at that point for like 4 years, and although my career on paper was doing well, like I'd done a Bond movie, I'd done Push,
Right.
it wasn't moving at the pace that I wanted to, and I was starting to struggle. And LA and the entertainment industry is all based upon comparison. It's like you can't describe a movie without comparing it by saying it's Jaws meets
Right.
what it comes to be. Everything is comparison, and it's the same with actors. And often in breakdowns, they say we're looking for a insert actor here type. And it happened to me several times that I go into an audition, and feedback will come back from the audition that we're looking for somebody a little more like this person. So I would, coming back to my fight background, I'd kind of look at that person, study them a little bit, go into my next audition with shades of that. And of course, that audition is completely different. And then looking for somebody that's like this. Mm-hmm. And over the courses of weeks and months and years, I pulled myself in so many different directions. I didn't actually know what my own voice was anymore. And I started having breakdowns. And I was driving one day, never had a panic attack, and suddenly had this panic attack where I couldn't breathe. I had to pull over, and it kind of came over in a wave. And then I thought that was the end of it. And I didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my family, because I was scared that if I admitted my fear of failure, one, it would make it real, but two, it would it would force me to have to look at what I was doing wrong. And so I just kind of buried myself into it. And I started having panic attacks 2 or 3 times a day and scared the hell out of me. And I went to go and see a psychic to try to pull myself out of it. I started meditating and try to pull myself out of it, and none of it was pulling me out of it. And it was all born out of this fear of failure, this idea that this goal that I'd set for myself, I was nowhere near attaining. And all my friends and family in Britain were looking at me and saying, we're so proud of you for being over there, and we're watching the shows that you're doing. But inside, I felt like a failure. And I realized I needed to take some time off. And so I moved back to Britain, where I moved into my brother's house because he'd gone away on holiday for 21 days. So I had 3 weeks in his house. And I was just going to sit in his house, do yoga, meditate, watch movies, and just kind of cleanse my palate and figure out what I wanted to do. But I was wrestling with the idea. I was never going to give up the industry, but clearly from my experience, I wasn't receiving the roles and getting the career that I wanted to get. So something was broken, something wasn't working. And maybe I had to face the facts that maybe I didn't have it and the career that I wanted wasn't going to come my way. And in the middle of there, this audition came in for this show called Make It or Break It. And it was 4 episodes they wanted me to do. And so I said, I don't really want to audition right now. I need to do some sort of self-healing time. So I turned the audition down. And 2 days later, they called up and they said, they really want you to audition. I said, I'm at my brother's house, which is about an hour and a half outside of London. I don't have a car, and the train station is a short distance away. I'm not going to be able to do it. And this is pre-iPhone, so I can't self-tape it. And then a day and a half later, they called back and they said, the creator of the show really wants you to do this, to the point that she's organized a casting director in London and will tape you for the audition. And they
wanted you, dude. They didn't want an audition. They're like, we want you.
You were their number 1 draft pick.
And so I went in, did this audition in London, came back out of it not thinking about it, and then found out the next day, I think it was a Thursday, found out the next day that you got the role. It starts filming on Monday. They need you to fly back. And it's 4 episodes of the show. And so I was like, okay, well, I booked a job. That's great. And I'm going to use this as me testing the water to see is this something I want to keep pursuing, because it was really chipping at my soul and really affecting my mental health. And I went along, and 4 episodes ended up becoming 3 seasons of a show.
Wow.
And it gave me my confidence back, gave me the feeling that I can do this and I want to do this. And also, it was the first time that I got a little taste of being on a show that got a crazy response. I mean, there was a point that when that show was airing, pretty much every young girl from the age of 12 to 16 in America was watching that show.
Yeah.
Because it was just this touchstone show that was all about these allegories for growing up and life troubles and everything else like that. And I got to be a part of it, and it pulled me back from that abyss of not knowing where my career was going to go. And then Absentia was another one. I just broken up with my ex of 10.5 years, 4.5 years ago. And in that year and a half.
10.5 years?
Right, and in that year and a half, I hadn't really worked. And jobs I'd done have been one day on different jobs, and a day rate as an actor. By the time you've paid your tax and paid your agents and managers, you end up with a couple of $100 at the end of the day. And there was like spaced out 3 of them over the course of a year, so not enough to live on. And I was living off credit cards, and I finally started driving Uber to try to make a little bit more of a living, which was great for me emotionally. And then I reached this point, I was like, you know what, I think it's time to move back to Britain again. I've had a good run, I've made my peace with it. Hollywood obviously isn't the place for me. I'm not getting jobs anymore. And I got rid of my place, was subletting a friend's place, getting ready to clear my storage locker out. And along came this audition for Absentia.
Crazy how the world works.
Crazy, dude. And but I did the audition, and they hired me for all 10 episodes of episode 1, season 1. So I went over to Bulgaria and did it. And that was the thing that kind of started me back on the train again. I did that. Then I got Westworld. Then I did a Robert Zemeckis film, and suddenly things started lining up. But I kind of feel like I needed like that 7-year itch or a snake shedding its skin, or whatever weird metaphor you want to give. I think I needed to go through a period of change to evolve and become a different artist.
100%.
Because a lot of the early time in Los Angeles, I was approaching things outside in. I wanted to succeed, so my goal was success. And going through this very difficult time with the breakdowns recalibrated things and made me want to be an artist,
right,
and do things that made my soul happy. And then the second period, which was equally hard in a different way, made me trust that I have a voice, that and trust that I have an artistry and that I have something to say and that I can put that through my work. And so where my work is at now is a direct testament to the difficult struggles that I've had to kind of get to that point. And I'm so grateful for them.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
It's insane, man. Like it's just so weird, right? When you're at your lowest point and you're just ready to give up, that's when, boom, instantly a sign just comes and it's like, nope, keep going. And now again, like I said, just bringing it back. I know you talked about, make it or break it, absentia, but it's like, again, the whole fandom thing. With you being a part of the DC universe now and you doing the job that you're doing, don't be surprised when more people start looking and being like, oh, that Neil Jackson guy, he's, because again, I know, knock on wood, right?
Yeah, for real, yeah.
Right. But what I'm saying is, right, you caught our attention and the attention of the DC universe, for your portrayal, and it's only been 10 episodes. And actually, you're in 9 of them. So, what's not to say however long it goes on for, and of course
Neil is putting up points, so another team is gonna go.
Right.
I
got some scouts out here, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if Icicle in the comics starts getting more recognition, especially because right now he's not in any comics that I'm aware of. But like, I feel like give it a year or two and he's gonna be in it. He's gonna be reintroduced.
And how we were talking about, certain villains, right? Like the Joker, and how every time an actor does an iteration of him, everyone compares it. Yep. Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger. So now, although we did have a Smallville and a Flash one, yours is the most prominent one by far,
and the best.
So if in a couple of years down the line, they decide to reboot something, they try to get another Icicle, people are going to be like, let's try and compare it to Neil Jackson's version of Icicle. I mean, that's just the way I see it now, and probably most people. So, I mean, you should be proud of that.
Gathering. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. And it's one of those things I don't think it's really dawned on me, because we're in this pandemic right now, so Comic Cons aren't open. So if we weren't in a pandemic, I would have been going to the Comic Cons and so experiencing directly the way that this show is being received and everything. So what I'm receiving, which is amazing on social media and kind of getting a sense of how people are responding to the show and the character, is incredible. But at the same point, I'm not directly noticing it. I can't imagine what it would be like if we were going to Comic Cons now while the show is still airing.
Like a panel, like a Stargirl panel,
Oh, it would be insane. Pandemonium, dude.
Right? It would be that would be a fun one to experience.
And trust me, when you do get to experience it, and hopefully it's soon, you're gonna have the time of your life. It's amazing.
Yeah, I look forward to. I've done a load of Comic Cons with other things before. Like I did it with Blade, I did it with Sleepy Hollow. I've done the Comic Cons before. But this is a more prominent show for me, with a more prominent role. And you know what? We were talking about it a lot when we were doing it. I look forward to seeing people cosplaying the characters. Like
it's already happening this October, dude, for sure.
Right?
Halloween
this October.
Halloween at home. It's like
quarantine Halloween.
Quarantine Halloween. People dressed as Sportsmaster or Tigress or Hourman or Dr. Midnight or Icicle. Although it'll be interesting to see how they do that.
The suit, just wear a suit.
Just wear a suit.
Have some blue. Just color yourself blue.
Frost the tips of their hair. And stuff.
So, it's hugely flattering. I mean, it is a big honor to be a part of this greater universe.
Right. So, like I was saying before, you like your boxing experience. Did you go to Jeff Johns like, yo, like, I'm not gonna lie, I think for the season finale, me and Courtney should just drop, just straight up brawl. Like, I'm ready to show my talents right now.
Imagine how satisfying that would be. Just the idea that she puts down the cosmic staff,
right?
16-year-old gymnast against a man, and suddenly standing just like crack,
just done, right? Knocked out.
And it just shows the director of the episode, directed by.
It's like
season 2 coming soon. Season 2 coming soon.
Yeah.
That's the cliffhanger.
Very satisfying.
That's the cliffhanger, right?
No, it was one of the things we talked about. Just like we talked a little bit about the fact that he is somebody that you, spoiler not spoiler, won't really see fight. Because why would we get in this distance to throw hands when it can be that distance?
When I could just, exactly. Nah, I figured.
Or
But
just,
I mean, even
or just freeze you.
Yeah, even throwing hands though, I feel like it would still be deadly because he could just like freeze you.
Dude, right, you just catch your hand.
Hello, he might as well be part of the Lin Kuei in Mortal Kombat.
Oh, the Lin Kuei.
So yeah, no, I know it won't be a fair fight, but man, tell us more. Like I saw on your website, actually, you wrote a feature film, right? Of like about a boxing experience.
Yeah, that's still in the process of getting set up. We're everything's paused because of the pandemic, but kind of loosely based on my experience. My brother was a professional fighter and had 50 pro fights as a boxer. Nice. I was an amateur boxer, and so fought for 5 years as an amateur boxer. And there's a side of sports that I've always been fascinated about, and it's the side of everything, right? We normally celebrate the winners, and they're the ones that we hear about.
Right.
And so you hear about the world champion fighters, but for every world champion fighter, there's 500 journeymen who are just making their living as journeyman fighters and kind of going in the gym and grinding and getting paid very small amounts for their fights that they get on 3 or 4 days' notice. And those guys fascinate me for two reasons. One, they're just the fascinating mentality of just getting up and doing this thing, which is brutal on the body and brutal on the mind.
Yeah.
No fame, no glory, and no money, just because they love
the love of it, the heart.
It's amazing to me. But also the fact that every single sport is nothing without these people.
Yep.
You can have the people that are in the NBA final, but if you don't have the lower tier teams that are propping everything up, then it's nothing. And it's the same with boxing. If every single boxer, from world champion to chump, has to fight a journeyman, they'll have to fight in the early parts of their career, work their way through the first 10 fights, 12 fights, fighting journeyman, because journeyman, and my brother was a journeyman fighter, and he would be put in against British champions, guys going for Commonwealth titles, because they know that he's a tough, ready fighter that's going to test their fighter to the very edge of their limits, and may not have the power they have or the speed that they have or the natural talent, but you can't overlook them. And
that's really cool. That's really cool because it's almost this sense of respect, regardless of your status as a boxer. It's more about the grit,
right? I mean, that's what I am. It's kind of what Rocky was. He was a journeyman fighter who suddenly got this shot, and it was just so happens that
I know, like watching Rocky 1, I'm just like, oh, this dude just got an opportunity. I'm like, damn, that's dope. Like, why couldn't that happen more often, right?
Right. And that was born out of a true story, because that was actually that was a thing with, I think it was Muhammad Ali and Chuck Webner. Muhammad Ali was looking for a fight, and they found this journeyman in this area called Chuck Webner that they brought in, expecting Ali to put on this showboat and destroy him. And Chuck Webner came to fight and brought it to Ali and messed him up. Didn't win the fight, but won a lot of fans.
Dude, how do you feel about Iron Mike coming back versus Roy Jones Jr.? Like, that's crazy.
I'm excited. I'm going to be disappointed, I think. like the same thing. Well, because you're going to be holding two of the greatest boxers, arguably the greatest boxers of all time.
Yeah.
And we all
saw them in their prime, right?
Again?
Because like you saw them in their prime, and now you're gonna see them at like an older age. It's like,
yeah, it's like it's gonna be like that film Grudge Match. You're gonna see these two older guys,
Stallone and De Niro,
right? And so there's going to be an element of disappointment. But I respect it. I mean, just because the body doesn't still maintain that youth and that ability, the mind is still competitive, and the mind still wants the challenges. And so still putting yourself out there to see if you can do it. I mean, they'll get my pay-per-view.
Oh, absolutely.
Mike,
right.
Like he's practicing too.
Mike, he's like stupid fast. So like the
agility,
it's like power. I was like,
dude, Mike Tyson could be 83. I will still not want to take a punch from him to the ribs. I'm like, no thanks.
I don't want to take a punch anywhere. I'm good.
No, anywhere.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, man. But so, all right, you act, you write, you used to box. You still box here and there? Like you still attend the gym?
I train a little bit, but no, not really.
And you also sing. I saw you on Spotify. Neil Jackson. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh wow.
So it's like, I don't know how you do it. Like I hit the gym like in the morning and I'm done for the day. I'm just like, yeah, I did a lot today already.
Neil goes, I'm gonna work on these octaves, dude.
Right. He's like,
it's octave day.
He's like, let me practice my lines while I will sing my lines while punching a bag. So you're just doing it all at once. And then, I hit the gym, do like 10 push-ups, leave, and I'm good for the day. So like, do you really like singing? Like, is that a passion of yours as well?
It was a huge passion for me. And there was a point where I contemplated whether to pursue music career or acting. And I did a pilot episode. So I got cast in this pilot for one of the networks. And we went and shot the pilot in Jersey, actually. And
shout out Jersey.
The pilot was great. I then went back to Britain after we finished the pilot. Saw my family. And then I flew back into LA, and as I turned my phone on, as the plane landed, it started blowing up. And we found out that the show was picked up for 13 episodes. Everyone was over the moon. I'm just getting all these congratulations because it's in all the trades. Mm-hmm. And then one of the calls was from my manager at the time, and she said, you could hear it in her voice. She was like, Neil, call me as soon as you get this. And
I'll be like, oh my God, what?
What now?
I gave her a call, and she went, there's no way to sugarcoat it. They've decided that they're going to recast your role, so you're not coming back to the show. And I was devastated on multiple levels. I loved the show. I loved the character. But 13 episodes for an actor who at that point hadn't been working a great deal is suddenly a chunk of change. And I was like, this is going to be the thing that moves my career forward. It digs me out of debt. And suddenly it was taken away from me. And I got a call by the director, and he was like, I'm so sorry, we fought for you. It was nothing to do with your performance. It was to do with some other thing politically that I can't get into. He said, but it's nothing to do with you. I'm just sorry this happened. And it broke my heart. But what broke my heart more was the next day, there's two big trade papers in Hollywood. And one is Variety and one is the Hollywood Reporter.
Right. And if it didn't come from them, it's not true.
And on and in them the next day, big headline, Neil Jackson gets fired from NBC show. And so now I'm getting all these people going, dude, what did you do to get fired? I can't believe you got fired from the show. What did you do? And that broke my heart doubly. And I was like, I need to leave this situation so that I can deal with it. But more than that, I need to do something that reclaims my art. I need to do something that is this sort of reclamation of my art. And so I called up this music producer in Britain, who's a friend of mine. I said, look, do you have any time and space? I think it might be good for me to come and record an album. And I sent him some songs that I'd written. And he went, I really like the style. He said, yeah, come over. We'll block off a month. And so I went and stayed in a shitty little hotel around the corner from a studio. And every day we went in the studio and just worked on this album. And I paid for it. So the decisions were all mine. If I wanted to put a 16-piece string orchestra in there, nobody's telling me what to do and what not to do.
Full control.
And so it was this thing of me just going, okay, that bruised and really hurt what just happened in Hollywood. So I want to come back and do something that's purely mine, that is my artistic endeavor, that I can feel proud of again. And I finished the album and did one launch gig in the Troubadour in London, a really cool old venue, which was great. Press turned up and loads of people turned up to it. But it taught me that I don't want to be a musician. For me to then put all of the acting on the sideline and start pursuing my music would be me from scratch. Like me going.
Yeah, you have to start all over again. Yep.
Building everything up. And it just so happened at that point, I booked Sleepy Hollow. So I was like, okay, well, the decision's taken out of my hands. I'll go and shoot Sleepy Hollow. But the album's out there. And then I did an EP, a three-track EP about 4 years ago, maybe, just to kind of, as some songs I wanted to get out there. And music's always a thing. The guitar's in the back there. It travels with me. And I love playing music. But my storytelling now is always primarily going to be through film and TV.
That's great. That's always great because it's always really dope to see how actors transition out of their roles in a sense. So, for example, you have actors like yourself who on their downtime, they maybe won't be in front of a camera, but they'll be writing a script out. They'll be writing an entire screenplay with another, in collaboration or producing something. That's always great to do because, you'll drive yourself nuts trying to wait for a role. You know, you have to do something.
Yeah, I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how anybody does it, Ariel. And actors who are solely actors, and I'm not being pejorative by saying that, but that's their only pursuit. They don't have another artistic outlet. I would go insane because they are long. I mean,
Neil's like, you're just an actor. Can't relate.
It's partly born out of I love telling stories. I love telling stories, and I can't wait till I direct my first feature, which is supposed to happen in the spring.
Yeah,
nice.
I love telling stories, and so if I'm not on set acting, I want to write. If I'm not writing, then I'll write some music. If I'm not doing that, then I've directed a couple of short films. I love telling stories, and I feel so lucky. And this comes back to perspective again. You know, I'm this boy from Luton, which is 20 miles north of London. Knew nobody in the film industry. When I was 17, I spoke to careers advice in my school because I was doing school plays, and I said I wanted to be an actor. And sounds like a cliche, but she literally laughed at me and said, "Well, let's think of a proper job." And we decided,
what a hater!
She decided I was going to become a Royal Marine. So I went to join the Royal Marines, and they said get a degree. So the reason I went to university was to get a degree so that I can become an officer in the Royal Marines.
Wow. And
that taught me that I don't want to be a Royal Marine. So I'm kind of floating around, and the idea that I now, after all those years, get to be on set with amazing people, telling stories, having chats with you guys who have watched the stuff and responded to it. It's a weird kind of pinch myself moment that it's never lost on me. The fact that I get to do this for a living, and it was my dream really since like early on, 10 years old, to be man. And the fact that I get to do it just blows my mind. And the fact that I get to say, you know, I'm on set with Jeff Johns and we're talking about story and collaborating on how to make the scene the best it can possibly be. And,
dude, Jeff Johns is like one of the head honchos of DC.
Yeah,
like everyone knows Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
Right, he's amazing, and the fact that we get to we're having conversations about, no, I don't know, I think this and maybe this, and we come to an agreement, and then we do that on set, and then you guys see it and you respond to it in a favorable way. It's kind of like, that's amazing to me. I mean, and that, like Jonas, was that your niece or your sister that just came on?
Yeah.
You know, the fact that she came on and she's watched the show and they're excited about it, that's everything. Because I'm a fan first and foremost, and I remember waiting in line at the mall when I was a kid, because the guy, I forget his name, but the guy who plays Darth Vader was going to be at the local chemist, the pharmacy in the mall. And I went in line to meet him.
James Earl Jones?
No, he did the voice.
No.
He did the voice.
I knew it wasn't James Earl Jones.
Uncle Phil?
Right? And I waited in line to see him, and just like, stories have been such a huge part of my life, and I've leaned on them when I've been in trouble. I've leaned on them when I've been happy. They've inspired me. They've taught me lessons. And the idea that in some small way I get to be a part of that for other people is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah. For me, like, I wish like society was like, it was like, it's always like, it kind of drills into you, like when you're young, oh, you have to get like a 9 to 5, like very common job, like, you know, and like, I didn't really realize until we started doing this, and maybe started like our Instagram page first, and then we started doing our podcast. So I was like, I could actually kind of I want to do this for a living. This is what I actually want to do.
This is like,
and
I was so happy
and that feeling you're talking about, where you're like, oh, like it means the world. Like when people are like we're not the biggest podcast in the world, obviously.
No, we are.
Like,
they just don't know it yet.
Yeah, exactly. But like, when we get like random messages from people like in like India or somewhere else, like just saying, oh, like, we love the podcast, we love today's episode, we're like, it like really like means the world to us.
Crazy good feeling.
I think of it on just the purest level is, there's so much entertainment that, you know, there's hundreds of years worth of music, 100 years worth of films, 50 years worth of TV, then all of the YouTube channels and everything else like that. But somebody has specifically chosen to spend their time listening to you guys talk. And they've chosen to take an hour or an hour and a half or whatever it is out of their day to make you their primary source of entertainment and focus. And that's a huge responsibility because people can do whatever they want with their time. They don't have to choose to tune into Stargirl or listen to your podcast and chill with the villains, but they choose to because of what you bring to it. And for me, passion is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I've said before, I would much rather talk to a passionate bricklayer than an apathetic astronaut. You could have gone to the moon, but you're just like, the moon was cool. It was all right.
And I think that's bullshit if anybody thinks like that.
Right, but if you got somebody who's just like, oh man, I made this incredible wall today, and I wasn't sure I was going to get the angles right, and then the mortar was really difficult to mix, and then I tried to, and you're like, tell me,
just like, right, you get excited.
Passion is everything, and if you can find what you're passionate about, and I feel really lucky that it took me 25 years. I didn't start acting until I was 25, but I found my passion at 25, and now 19 years later, I'm still able to pursue it.
Nah, man, you found your passion at 10. You found your passion at 10.
I heard about my passion at 10. I found it at 25.
Right. And I think even with your posts, right, like on Instagram, and how like you post something recently like our deepest fears, right, and you talked about a lot about depression and your panic attacks and everything. And one thing that stuck with me too was it's okay to not be okay, because whether you know it or not, everyone is going through something. Yep. And so to see you, post these things and tell your story and how you still overcame all that, because you probably didn't even tell us half of the shit that you had to go through. So you just telling it like to us and posting on your Instagram, really, it has an impact on people. Like it has impacted me. I'm just like, you know what, like we're going to keep this thing going. Yeah. Some days are bad. Some days are like, is this really for me? Like is anything I'm doing here, does it matter? And then you see something or something happens where you're like, fuck yeah, it does. Oops. You see what I mean? I can't control the F-bomb.
Get caught up in the passion of it. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful things for me is the fact that I reached a little point. I was told, it was Make It or Break It actually, that told me to get Twitter and then Instagram, because when I was re-upping my contract, they said when I was re-upping, and it's sad that this is a consideration now in the entertainment industry, but when I re-upped my contract, they said, how many followers via my manager, how many followers does Neil have on Facebook? I was like, not many, it's just my family. Okay, how many followers does he have on Twitter? I'm like, I don't use Twitter. How many followers do you have on Instagram? I don't use Instagram. And they said, well, Instagram and
They're
Twitter
like, MySpace. What about MySpace, Neil?
I know,
do something. Do something.
I still have an Earth account. I don't know
about anything.
Right? And they said that Twitter is now the way of quantifying fame. If you have 1,000 followers, you're twice as famous as somebody who has 500.
Or if you have the blue check.
Right? And so it became this thing that I was doing as a business model to try to perpetuate my career. And I reached this thing about 4, maybe 5 years ago. Where it just felt icky. I was looking at everything through this Instagram filter of, would this make a good post? Would this make a good post? Would this get me more likes? Would this get me more followers? It just felt icky.
That's us.
Yeah. But it's not us. You guys
oh, no, right.
The thing that you love, and you're talking about with people that you love. So there's a very different thing, right? I'm assuming that you love each other. You might end this thing be like the Brady Bunch. And but I suddenly went, well, if I'm gonna use this platform, I want to use this platform to talk about the things that mean something to me. And when I've been in the throes of my depression and I've had really difficult periods, the things that have pulled me out is hearing about how other people have been going through the same sort of thing. Not because I relish in the idea that anybody feels bad, but for me, depression is the most lonely experience I've ever had in my life. It feels like when I'm in that place that nobody in the world is going through the same sort of thing. And all it makes me do is go inwards, not want to speak to anybody, not want to be around anybody. Yeah. But then you read biographies of Robin Williams, or you read about people who have, people that you look up to, sports stars, athletes who have had their bouts of depression, anxiety, panic attacks. And you suddenly go, oh, this isn't something that's unique and alien to me. This is part of the human experience.
Yep.
And we need to demystify it to realize that it is part of the human experience and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
And that by sharing our stories can help other people pull themselves out of that abyss as well.
Yeah.
And hearing from people on Insta, and it's not the reason I do it, but hearing from people on Instagram who have said, reading this post, hearing what you said, hearing you talk about depression, in some way gave me hope that there's a better place for me, or I'll find my way out of this dark place that I'm in right now. As much as hearing that somebody has watched the show and loved the show is beautiful, the fact that either the show or me or posts that I've done has connected to somebody and made them feel a little bit better, a little bit more connected, that is beyond words beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It really is. Like, and I think, we need to start utilizing social media more for that. All you see on social media for the most part is negativity. And, someone who already has a negative mindset going on social media isn't going to help them if they're just seeing negativity. So that's why posts like that positive post, someone's having a bad day, they see that and they might reconsider certain things.
Right. And it's realizing there shouldn't be a stigma around it. And I think that's what all the movements that are happening at the moment are teaching people. That speak your mind without fear of the repercussions, as long as it's coming 100% place, and you're not doing it maliciously to hurt people. Speak your mind because your truth has power and your truth has meaning. And I put posts up there of days when I'm really not feeling great and in depression. And I'm not putting it as a reach out for somebody to say, hey, stick in, keep going, brother. But I'm putting it out there as a way of saying, everybody has these. There's this misconception about mental illness that it has a trigger. I am depressed because my wife left. I am depressed because I lost my job. I am depressed because my X, Y, or Z. And that's not the case, because you can have Robin Williams. You can have people who seemingly on paper have everything and yet struggle with life because there's a chemical imbalance, an emotional imbalance that causes this malaise to hit them. And when you realize that it's successful people, depression doesn't give a shit if you are rich or poor.
Exactly. It doesn't.
Exactly. CEO or a cleaner. It doesn't.
Bars.
Anything else.
Straight up, man.
It can hit anybody, and it doesn't discriminate.
Anytime, anywhere.
And so, for me, a big thing has been realizing that it's not something that I deal with on my own. My brother has depression. I talked about it. He tried taking his own life, which caused a dialogue with us. And one of the things with that is he felt very alone and didn't realize that I was going through stuff. And by us starting a dialogue just between us has been a huge thing that has helped both of us kind of come to terms with it, understand it, and find ways to dig ourselves out of it, knowing that even in the pit, I can just go, mate, I'm having a shit day. Right. And my brother will be on the phone if he can and just be like, I get it. Even if he's just telling me a joke, a weird story, there's an umbilical cord that connects me and helps me pull myself out of that dark moment.
Because sometimes that's all we need. Somebody just go, hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Yeah. And I get you. I mean, we all we're joking about the Na'vi with Avatar.
I see you.
That's what we all want, right?
Yep.
My philosophy of, not to get super deep, but we're already there. My philosophy.
No, we're there, right?
We're in there. We're there 5 minutes ago.
Shovels right here against the wall.
I'm like, we're not deep yet. We could go further.
My perspective is we're all children, right? We're all children, and then we build up this adult armor around ourselves.
Exactly.
As a way of protecting that child, because we don't want that child to get hurt. We're scared of
Crazy Jane, Doom Patrol.
Right? Yeah. We're scared of putting ourselves out there because it's not us, the armor, that will get hurt. That child will get wounded because the child is innocent and pure and loved. And it's a very scary thing to put yourself out there thinking that other people are going to wound and hurt you. Yeah. But the weird thing is that I'm gradually learning that if I knock down the barriers and I say I'm scared, I'm wounded, I'm vulnerable, invariably somebody's not going to hurt that. They're going to hurt the facade. They're going to hurt this. No, I'm tough. I don't need anybody. Yeah. But then if you're not going to put, unless you're a sociopath, you're not going to put a little kitten down in the street and somebody's going to willfully squash it. They're going to want to lift it up and try to help it. It's part of the condition that we want to make people feel better. But we are told that we shouldn't show that vulnerable side because we'll get hurt. But that's bullshit. We're all. The thing is, we're all the same. All of us have our vulnerabilities, and if we can share them, then we don't need this facade anymore, and we can all live purely.
We can't all be like Spock. We can't all be like Spock.
No,
absolutely not.
Neil, man, thanks so much for
sharing. My ears might want to be.
Thanks so much for sharing, man. Like I did not think we were gonna get this deep just now. I'm like in my own world right now. I'm like, wow, like this, like if I had one of those special cookies, I would have been like, whoa.
Mom!
but Neil, so tying this back into your character of Icicle, like, do you think, because I obviously, like, I've never that's not true. I've acted before. I played Jesus in an Easter play.
Exactly.
So I've acted.
That's on your IMDb?
Spoiler. It's on IMDb. But and resurrects 3 days later. But no, obviously I don't have your I don't have your credentials, Neil. But do you think your experiences, and let's say that scene with your wife dying, right? And I'm sure Icicle from there on out, like, would you say right now, would you call Icicle a depressed character? Like, yeah. And do you think your experiences kind of, I don't want to use the term help, but okay, I can't find another word. So does it help the way you portray that certain character from your personal experience?
Influence.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we can. It's called play. When you the reason you're on stage and you're doing a play is it's play. We're interpreting and impersonating, but I believe you can only bring to it what you've experienced. And if you don't know great pain or great loss, it's very hard to portray that and do it authentically. And I definitely think that Icicle is somebody who is living with depression, the depression of the loss. Like he's not somebody, I imagine, sitting with a therapist and pouring out his heart about his dead wife and trying to come to terms with the pain. The way he comes to terms with the pain is internalizing and rage and taking vengeance out on the people that caused it.
Yeah.
And that rage is still there, but it's just a deep sadness, I feel. Yeah. There's a deep sadness that sits with him, that he's sad that his wife died. He's sad that there's people in the world that manipulate people and cause the death of his wife. He's sad that people would cover up such a thing. He's sad that he has to go to the lengths that he has to make the world a better place. He's sad that the world isn't already a better place. He's sad that he has to kill people in order to do what he does. He's sad that he can't have a better relationship with his son because he's off on his missions. There's just this heavy, heavy sadness that's in him. And
I'm rooting for him to win now.
Honestly, in a way, it seemed like from like the anniversary that of his wife's death, it seemed like when his son was like said, "Oh, like I know it's a tough day, like you all right?" Like it seemed like he almost has dealt with it in a more healthy way than his own father.
Oh, completely. Yes, that's a really good point. He's definitely, his father hasn't dealt with it.
Right.
Jordan hasn't dealt with it.
He's kind of thrown himself.
He doesn't want to move on. Like when he says, "You could be happy to."
And that's the interesting thing that Jeff did. He doesn't want to move on because he found his love. I mean, they're talking about Robin Williams. It's kind of Robin Williams' character from Good Will Hunting. I have my wife. I found my wife, and he had that moment. And that's when Barbara Whitmore walks in, this beautiful ray of sunshine, and he's suddenly like, "Oh, I'm feeling a stirring in areas I thought were long since dead." But he's conflicted because she's married, and part of his morality is about the family unit and community. So he wouldn't want to break that up, but at the same time, the heart wants what the heart wants. So he's kind of torn with this.
All right, we're back on, guys.
That's sweet.
All right. So, Eunice, I know you probably had a bunch ton of more questions.
A bunch ton.
Yeah,
that's,
there's a lot. I posted it, and there's a lot of comments. But we answered a lot of them in the podcast too, which is pretty cool.
Oh wow!
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. So one of them was, well, I'm pretty sure we answered this, but what does Neil think about Jordan and Barbara? Anything he can hint about what's going to happen between them in the future?
No. I gotta get some cheeks.
And break that Barbara and Stripesy bond.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I kind of talked about it just then. I don't think from my perspective, I don't think that he's looking at her as somebody that is going to be his new wife. I think that he's shut off that part of him. The moment his wife died, he shut off sort of the romantic part of him, and it's all been this militant pursuit of this goal that he's outlined. And then Barbara Whitmore walks in, and he's kind of enamored by her energy, her light, her beauty, everything. But he would never want to break up the family unit, and so I think he likes being around her because
not yet.
She just right. She just makes him feel good, but I don't think he has designs to kind of muscle his way in and try to become anything more than that.
I think he kind of like views her as like untouched almost by like the stuff, like the injustice that he thinks he's fighting.
Yeah, that's a great point. She's really pure. She's just like, well, you see her when she comes into the New America Project, and she's throwing out these ideas, and she's just like full of this energy, and she doesn't know who he is. She doesn't know what he's done. She doesn't know any of that stuff. So he finds that innocence really attractive.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
This was I think this was probably my favorite question. What was the mission before his wife died?
Ooh. Some backstory.
That's one for Jeff. I'm afraid. I don't know.
All right, call him.
So,
we'll
wait.
We'll wait. Call Jeff.
I honestly, I don't know. I mean, in my perspective, the Injustice Society did not exist before his wife died. And I don't believe, I would like to think, just looking at my own sort of approach to the character, he didn't really have a project. He was this person that had these powers, but he was building up his business, and he was reclaiming, finding broken down towns and injecting cash into them to try to make them a little bit better. I don't think that he was really doing anything in the Icicle vein.
Right.
And then his wife died, and it awoke that side of him.
Okay.
Man.
Bars.
Must we know more?
He's speechless. He was like, shit.
Yeah.
Cookies?
I'm never gonna let that down.
That's your thing now.
I know. I'm the cookie man.
Oh God, the cookie. If his son gets his powers, will he fight his father, or join him? What do you think?
That's a great question, and again, that's a Jeff question. I mean, we already have hinted at the fact that he is inheriting the powers, because the scene you mentioned, which is the birthday scene,
oh boy,
his breath when he blows the candle out. So there was a scene before where he was talking with the parents, his grandparents. And I was saying, I don't know if he's inherited it. I don't want him to know about me. Let's keep everything in the dark. That didn't make the edit.
It's going to be heartbreaking when he finds out.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see, because not only is he going to find out that he has powers, which is going to be very confusing. And one of the things I love about the show, like watching the way Henry King Jr. discovers his powers, and then
phenomenal.
Just how scary that would make you feel, because you don't know about your dad, you don't know anybody else. You suddenly start hearing bullshit, you think you're going mad.
Yeah.
And Jake played it brilliantly. But yeah, he would discover powers, which is weird enough, then discover that his dad had the powers, very weird, and then discover that his dad is this villain that has been doing all of this stuff. My gut would be that would make him against his father. Yeah. I don't know anything for certain. This is me speculating, so it's not what any plot is. Mm-hmm. I would imagine if that was me and I found out all of that, it would make me against my father. But then hopefully, as he starts to understand, then join.
Oh, wow.
So that would be an interesting way of doing it.
Wow.
Owen Wilson's brother, right?
Wow.
This is a question for me.
Cosmic Sam.
Oh, I'd imagine it was
I'm done. That's too funny.
Can he please cameo one episode? Can you have
No, somebody's gonna make an edit of Owen Wilson sounds just happening every time Icicle throws something.
Wow.
I'm a real star, man.
You do a really good impression. Shit.
Yeah.
Not bad, yeah. If you could choose one actor to appear in the show, and I think we literally just answered this question again.
Wow.
Who would it be? What character would you want them to play?
Outside of Owen Wilson.
Right. I'd love to see like Pacino come in and do like there must be a character in the DC universe. It's like Siren or something like that, where you can just like hooah with a blast.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Yeah.
Why don't it be like
whatever? Jordan, there's something about Barbara.
Strength. Hooah! Got a great ass.
From Heat, I get the reference. There's something about a woman's ass.
Oh no! If I ever see Robert De Niro on Star, it's the greatest show of all time. There's just no question about it.
No question.
Oh, Pacino. I'm so sorry.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
I'm mixing the Italians up.
We'll take De Niro.
We'll take the name, so he could just be on the show like.
Grudge match number 2.
Jordan, you gonna take care of that?
Oh my God! Imagine that. Like, Jordan, I don't know what you're doing here, but you better fix shit. Who's this girl with the staff?
There's a grown man riding around in a robot.
Yo,
You see this piece of shit?
We got to strip it for parts. Come on.
That shit is real, right? It's a real thing.
They spent $1 million making a real life.
Jesus Christ!
You heard it here first, guys.
No, you didn't. But sure.
Wait, so I'm sorry. I have one question before
What's
we
up?
get. You mentioned like the flying fist
Yeah.
scene before, and you said how it was interesting to shoot. Like, how was that to shoot?
You can actually, I put photos on Instagram, so you can find them on my Instagram page. It was me in a green screen room, sitting on a green screen Swiss ball, holding another one with a plank of wood on my arms, and pretending that I'm flying through the air on a robot fist.
It is the most awkward thing ever to shoot, right?
Right, and it's just like, and then there's my mind. I'm like, so this, you can CG anything in here.
Pretty much. Yep.
You know, I'm expecting edits to come out where I'm riding all sorts of things through the air.
Nah, I don't think anyone would have the archival rough footage of that.
So yeah, it was a weird one to shoot. It was hilarious.
I see it. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's actually out there.
No. It's not a video.
Oh,
it's
not
just
the footage. Okay, all right. I was gonna say, don't play my man's. All right.
Anybody else have a question?
Eunice. I'm at, we got a couple too that I wanted to. This one's kind of, it's pretty spoilery, I guess. But will we see Jordan / Icicle in season 2? Obviously, you don't or can't answer that. But my thought, I'm just gonna give you my thought on what I think how the next 3 episodes are gonna play out. Just because I feel the JSA team still isn't completely formed.
No.
Just because they're not completely formed yet, and we really haven't seen all the ISA members formed either. I still think we have a long way to go with this bout. So I think we're still gonna. I still think we're gonna see Jordan Icicle in season 2.
Little Easter egg for you. I talked about the X-Men comics, and I know this is a DC show.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you remember the X-Men comics. The kind of end of the intro of the X-Men comics was seeing all of the characters kind of leaping towards each other.
Yeah.
There's one great moment in episode 13, which is a kind of homage to that moment.
You heard it here first. Did you hear it here first? Is this one official? Okay, this one's official.
Chillin With Villains exclusive.
But another one which we did touch on. Can your Icicle beat the Icicle from Flash? And what do you?
Eunice is going to answer
like,
that
that's
one.
A question for me, buddy.
and what do you think of his look compared to yours?
Eunice, you want to take this?
That's all you.
I'm just gonna say, like, I wasn't like
his ass.
Watching the show. I wasn't looking forward to Icicle because of his portrayal. This is not disrespecting anything. I'm just like, it was just my opinion on the Flash. I wasn't hyped for it, but like the fact that this role took me so off guard is one of the main reasons why I love this portrayal of Icicle. So
Amazing.
you totally trunk out any other role of Icicle I've seen.
All right, you heard it there from Eunice.
And the last question we have for you today, which is probably another one you can't really say. Will we see a Jay Garrick or Alan Scott next season?
Yeah, it can't say that either. I mean,
come on, people.
Jeff has a load of plans. There are a lot of plans in place, and anybody who's discerning would have seen a ton of Easter eggs that have kind of laced through.
We already did, which was really nice. Like I wasn't expecting to actually see like the lantern, power generator.
Yeah,
and I was just like, dope. It looks amazing.
And, we all know that Berlanti Group are making a Green Lantern Corps, which I'm super excited about. I think that will make a great TV.
Why you just hesitating? Why you just sprinkling that in there?
Oh, you guys not heard about that?
No. I know, but the fact that we're talking about, Stargirl, and then you're like, oh, they're also making this. I'm just like,
they're doing these other shows. So there's a lot of, they've just got a massive canon of characters.
Multiverse.
We haven't even started on the Shade. The Shade is a huge character that makes an appearance in the first episode. You see the smoke of the Shade dragging Dr. Midnight into a void. So there's a lot of characters that are percolating they can play with.
I can't wait for these next 3 episodes.
Hell yeah.
Monday, every Monday, y'all tune in. Neil, man, thank you so much for coming on. Guys. We hope you had a great time. We know we did.
Yeah, lovely chatting with you.
And would you want to, anything you want to plug in of yours, or any accounts, anything? Obviously, Stargirl Monday nights. You can find me
at the Neil Jackson on everything. And where's my fucking cookies?
I ended it on that, man.
Wait. No, can you? Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still live.
I almost forgot. Oh, she would have killed me. My girlfriend's little cousin is a huge Stargirl fan. I don't know how she's gonna feel about Icicle. She'll appreciate it later on in life. But right now, maybe not so much. But later on, if you could just give Gabriella Lanfranco a huge shout out.
Hey, Gabriella Lanfranco, I'm glad you love the show. Stargirl's great, but Icicle's better. And you'll come to realize that. But I'm glad you love the show.
Cookies.
Awesome.
This is fun, guys.
Awesome, man. We're glad you had a great time.
We appreciate it.
We enjoyed it a lot too.
Absolutely.
Hopefully next time we could do one in person here in New York, or if we ever
go to Vancouver.
Whenever Earth decides to open back up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But thanks a lot, man. Yeah, go start defrosting the chicken.
I will do. All right.
Be safe, man.
Peace, guys. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, you heard it here first, everyone. Chillin' with Villains Podcast. Shout out to Neil. Shout out to my guy Eunice, who came through the questions from the fans.
Oh, we're still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Oh, damn, take my dabs out of there.